Has it surprised you how quickly people become attuned to this sort of thing?
Unfortunately, it has, and I'm one of them. But we all become attuned to it, and we don't realize it.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's both. It's good to get used to taking care of yourself and not being laissez-faire about if there's a siren or not. But it's a bad thing. It's not how people should live. We shouldn't have to live from siren to siren, or a period of quiet with the expectation or understanding that there's going to be a different period. That's not how we want to live, and certainly not how we want to raise children and families.
If this all ended within a reasonably quick period, and they're not talking 50-50 chance and all that, never mind, but what would be the long-term psychological effects from this, do you think?
There would be some people would suffer post-traumatic stress disorder.
From just being this short time under this, you would expect to see post-traumatic stress
disorder? It would be a small percentage to get to this stage, but they would unfortunately suffer it, and it would be very disabilitating, even perhaps more so than a physical injury. I imagine there's a certain wariness that people would have, and especially children, as I said to you, that some children, if this has been going on in Ashkelon 4, 5, 6 years, that's all that some children know. And here, very often when parents move into an apartment or a new home, they decide on which bedroom they should have for the children. Very often it'll be the safe room, so if there are alarms at night, the children don't have to get up, they can stay in bed.
So your internal geography is determined by your external threat.
It helps, and unfortunately that is partially true. I wish it weren't, but there is truth in that.
How quickly do kids get over this?
Most children, fortunately, do get over it, but we still see and we still get referrals, as does the clinic here, from children who experienced things in the past, and there's a residual effect. This will bring back to certain children and adults previous attacks or alarms. And so it's a cumulative effect too.
How quickly did you find there was an uptick in the demand for your services after this bombing began?
Our services now are very different than our regular services, but both we in the hotline and the people at the trauma center and the hospital, we're getting many more referrals for these things now.
How soon does it start after the war starts? And how soon after this began last Wednesday did you realize that you had to go on to a different structure?
Well, for us it didn't start on Wednesday. We were getting alerts beforehand, and I think we were all prepared that by Wednesday or Thursday we would have a different reality.
And what was that reality?
Well, instead of my going to my regular kindergartens, or instead of my giving supervision to newer psychologists, it's working the hotline and getting the staff organized to work the hotline. Other people, it's working in the trauma center. Other people with other jobs.
Tell me what the hotline actually does.
Okay. It's a service, a municipal service for anybody who calls, staffed mainly by psychologists with the help of social workers. And anyone who calls, we try to answer problems, help them with the emotional needs and emotional stresses that they're going through. Very often, just by talking to them on the phone, we can feel that they calm down or feel better, and we can give them techniques that can help them feel better. And of course, there are some referrals that we see it isn't a telephone conversation, and so we'll refer them to another place that can see them personally.
What's the most common problem that comes across your hotline?
I've been going over the materials that we've been writing down, since we obviously have a summary of each conversation. And the general level of fear and anxiety among people, and parents very often calling about children having regressive behaviors, children who are becoming very clinging of their parents. They don't want to sleep in their own bedrooms just with their parents, maybe resorting back to using a pacifier or bedwetting, and the concerns that that parents have about these problems.
How old would the children be that are regressive?
Any age.
Really? I mean, even teenagers might.
Teenagers, they might not go back to bedwetting, but they might not be happy if mommy or daddy leave the house, and they may not want to leave the house, and they might want to be in the same bed with mommy and daddy, and something that might be good for parents and children, suddenly they're happy for all the hugs that mommy and daddy can give them, when beforehand maybe they really don't need it because they're very big people.
No, they're not very big people, they're very scared.
Yeah, yes.
You must think about this. What do you think that your equivalent, your professional equivalent in Gaza is having to deal with?
I imagine the very same thing, and I would love it if someday I could meet my equivalents from Gaza.
To compare notes.
Compare notes and to see what we can do to help build a healthier, emotionally healthier generation.
Do you think that's a danger, that you have on both sides, you have an unhealthy generation, mentally unhealthy generation coming up?
I would have a feeling there's more chances of it. Most of the people here are going to grow up to be well-adjusted adults. But you've been here, and you've probably experienced some of the alarms. Common sense says that it makes it a little bit easier to have a not as healthy generation, a more suspicious generation.
On both sides?
Yes.
Which doesn't bode ill for a long term, does it?
No.